Before we get started, I'll admit that I've been kind of bipartisan with this series. To date, I've covered 2 Super NES games and 8 PlayStation games in 10 episodes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, tonight I present to you a terrible Dreamcast skateboarding game. As I pointed out in episode 8, many companies, acclaiming THQ chief among them, were inspired to create new extreme sports games off the success of the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games. MPV Sports had 4 of them, the fourth of which was TJ Lavin's Ultimate BMX, which was pretty bad and I've already covered. The second is MTV Sports Skateboarding featuring Andy MacDonald, which was slightly different from the BMX game in the way that it was available on the Dreamcast, but it was very similar to the BMX game in the way that it's awful. The game's namesake is Andy MacDonald, who was one of the more successful skateboarders at that time. He isn't a bad choice to have the game named after him. The roster of professional skaters is actually really good, featuring a number of that period's relative newcomers, some veterans, as well as a good parody of vert and street-style skaters. The music selection is pretty good, at least as good as a Dreamcast skateboarding game's music can be. It's nothing that I would listen to outside of a skateboarding game, but it works in context. The graphics aren't awful either, and while the in-game menus are kinda confusing, the majority of the presentation is good. There are a few different interesting game modes as well, including a predecessor to the Tony Hawk's Underground story mode called Lifestyle. You can choose from a selection of fake people with absurd names, such as Billy J. Jim Bob, or Steve Siegel, or Wendy Jones. This is a cool idea, but it isn't pulled off terribly well, as there's almost no real sense of urgency and very few real goals. It's also kind of strange that MTV likely hired real people to pose as these fake people during the loading screens. Maybe these are just stock images, but for whatever reason, this woman is forever doomed to be known as Wendy Jones from MTV Sports Skateboarding. Other modes are playable as well, including a free ride mode in which you may play as any of the pro skaters. Point is, there's no lack of modes in this game. It is in the actual gameplay mechanics, however, where the game falls. The control is slightly delayed in doing grab tricks. Grinding is incredibly inaccurate, and there's no way to balance. There is one, count it, one lip trick available. Allegedly, you can also manual, but I have never been able to, and flip tricks are pretty confusing as well. In Tony Hawk, to do a flip trick, one must press a direction on the analog stick or directional pad either before or simultaneously with when he or she pressed the flip trick button. In this game, however, it's basically reversed. You have to hold the X button and then move the analog stick or direction pad, which makes for some difficult and clumsy gameplay. It's like in Thrasher's Skate and Destroy, except that it's not done for realism, and it's done really, really clumsily. These control issues make the game nearly unplayable. It's almost like if you were to purchase a really nice car with all the extra features that you could want, but when you tried to start it, you found out the engine was actually stolen from an electric scooter. This means that the presentation is good, the modes are good, the cast of characters is good, but the only part that matters is absolutely horrid. So don't play this game.